Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another adventure with me and T. Today I am flying solo. I'm going to show you how to do a needle felting tutorial on what we call the short sheep. This was a idea that was suggested to me by my friend over at Cog Hill Farm and Mrs. Cog Hill Farm, Brooke. She said, you should definitely show people how you make those little critters. She said, I think people would be interested in that. So I trust Brooke with my life. So if she thinks it's a good idea, then I'm going to go ahead and give it a try. And just as a disclaimer, I am in no way a professional needle felter. I do it for fun, and we sell at craft shows and things like that. So if this is something you're interested in, if you want to let me know, just drop a little comment, or you can send me an email at adventureswithmeandT@gmail.com or at bespokefibercreations@yahoo.com, and I will gladly put together a little kit for you and kind of get you started on your needle felting journey. It's a great hobby. It's a way to be artistic without having any formal art training or being a sculptor or painter, or things that take years and years and years to perfect. These can be as fun and silly and whimsical as you want them to be. There are a lot of fiber artists who do just extraordinary pieces that you would never even know they were needle felted. To look at them, you would think they were an actual living creature. Personally, I like the silly ones. I like the ones that are just fun and abstract, and that's kind of what more what I'm drawn to. So if you guys want to come along with me, I will show you how I make the short sheep, and let's get started. Okay, before we get into the actual making process, I do want to go over with you some of the differences between alpaca and wool. Normally I work with alpaca, but for a beginner tutorial kind of thing, I want to show you the difference between the plaque structure of the different fibers. I don't know how well y'all can see this. On the far left there is coarse wool, then fine wool, alpaca, cashmere, silk, linen, and cotton. And what these are showing is the individual plaque structure on the various strands of fiber. And you can see how flat they lay on alpaca, whereas with wool, it's very scaly and grippy. So it's a lot easier to work with, and it sticks to itself a lot better. Alpaca does felt beautifully. It just takes a tiny bit more work. Some of the tools that we use are multi-tools. These hold various needles. You can get a felting pen. I think this one holds like 3 needles. This holds just 1. Personally, I like to use just a single needle. When you buy needles, you can get them in packages. This one's 5 pieces. It was $6. I like to use, for my armature, if I'm doing something that has an armature, I like to use these fuzzy pipe cleaners. You'll also need the needle nose pliers. And this is just, it's very pliable metal wire, also good for doing armatures. The only thing about that is the fiber sometimes will slide when you use that as an armature. So you can use this as your base armature and then wrap the pipe cleaners around it to help hold the fiber in place. You can get these little kits online. They come with, well, some of them come with like a little styrofoam pad that you can use. They come with all different kinds of, like this one has an awl. It's got glue sticks. It's got all kinds of little jewelry findings in there. It's got little plastic eyes. Little bits and bobs in there. The more basic kit comes with the finger cots. These are very handy if you're going to be trying this for the first time. It just slides on your finger, and these will save your fingers because those needles have barbs, and if you poke yourself with one of those, you're going to know you've been poked. So those are a very handy thing to have. For today's project, I'm going to use some wool that I got from the Felted U. I got this online, and this is just core wool, which means it's basically just grippy, usable, good foundation wool. I'm also going to be using some locks. These are Blueface Leicester locks, and this is from a little sheep named Storm. So I'm going to be using that to make my coat for my sheep. So that's pretty much the tools of the trade. Everything altogether, probably a good starter kit would run you about $20, $25, $30, just depending upon how elaborate. So it's not really that expensive of a hobby to get into. The felting pad that I'm using here is from Wool Buddy, and as you can see, it's got fiber all stuck in it. I brush it occasionally and then just to stab it back down just with the multi-tool just to go over it and hold the fibers back down. But yeah, it's a great hobby to get into. It's very good for stress relief, works out all of your anger issues. You are definitely stress-free when you get done. It's a great hobby. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I've taken my core wool and just pulled it into strips. And I'm going to draft it out a little bit. Just hold it at each end and just stretch it just a bit, and it will pull out to the longest length of the locks that are in it, and that just makes it go a little farther. If you see little bits of stuff in there, don't worry about it. That little sheep had to wear that fiber all year long, so there's bound to be little particles of vegetable matter in there. Okay, we're going to take our pipe cleaner, and I'm going to make legs from this. So I'm just going to fold that, squish it down a little bit, and then I like to twist these, just kind of add a little stability. Okay, and you want to make sure that they're about the same length. Looks pretty good. Where they come together in the center, there's going to be a little end of the pipe cleaner there. Those are kind of pokey, which is where I like to use the needle nose pliers and just kind of squish that down a bit. You don't want to get poked with one of those. They're a little on the ouchy side. Okay, then we're going to take a third pipe cleaner and connect everything together. At this point, what you want to do is kind of try to determine the length of your sheep's back. So I figure about like that. We're just going to wrap that around. And then the part that's left over, I like to put a little bit of a neck on my sheep. A lot of people do not. And that's personal preference, whatever you want to do. So I just shape a little bit of a form there for the head. And then just wrap the rest of this around. Okay, that's our basic sheep. So now the next step is going to be wrapping this with the wool. You want to make sure this is kind of snug on there. And it will stick to itself, so that's a little bit of a help. And what I like to do is, as I'm going along, just go ahead and tighten this down just a bit. And it's going to be a little bit of a woolly mess. Don't worry about it. This is going to be under the coat, so it's not even going to be seen. And this is just a little fluff, a little squishiness for our little sheep. And the reason we call these short sheep, my dad's from Bristol, and whenever he talks about somebody he's known for a long time, he'll say, "Oh yeah, I've known that feller since he was knee-high to a short sheep." And when I was a kid, I just thought that was the funniest thing. I could just picture all these people being just so tiny that they were knee-high to a short sheep. Okay, we're not really firming that down too much. We're just gonna tack it together basically. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap the neck and the legs, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so I went ahead and wrapped all the legs and the body, wrapped the neck, and kind of shaped the head a little bit. I'm not overly worried about what the head looks like at this point. You kind of just want it to be a little bit of an egg shape or a potato shape, kind of. Just a basic form. And what I'm going to do now is make some ears. I'm going to show you how to make an ear. And there are probably a million different ways to do this. This is just the way that I like to do it. I take one little lock and fold it over. And kind of tap it into a basic shape. And when you're doing this, you want to make sure you lift frequently because it will attach itself to the felting pad. Also make sure that you're poking straight up and down and not at an angle. If you go at an angle, you're very likely to break needles off. And it doesn't take a lot of force to do this. It's a very gentle kind of poking motion. We're just looking for a basic ear shape. It's going to get covered with the locks from the sheep, so it doesn't have to be anything too fancy. But this is your sheep and your creation. So if you want fancy, you go ahead and make something fancy. But I just am more drawn to a basic kind of abstract, generic sort of little shape. You just kind of shape it as you go. You want to leave these long tails on there because that helps attach it to the head. Also gives you something to hang on to. This is kind of one of those things, you don't want it to be too thick, but you don't want it to be too flimsy either. So you kind of just have to assess as you go and kind of stylize it to what you think it ought to be. Okay, I made one earlier. Those are similar. This one's a little bigger. And I'm going to go ahead and attach the fiber to it before I attach it to the body. I just find this a little easier to do. And like I said, this is Blueface Leicester. And cute little locks. And I am partial to the grays. Back when we were raising alpacas, we were breeding for gray. And we had a pretty good breeding program going for grays. And one of our specialties was the classic silver gray and rose grays. The rose grays are so pretty. They're kind of a rare color in alpacas. Only about 2% of all the alpacas in the world are rose gray. And when they stand in the sun, they look almost pink. You just want to make sure you get that completely covered. get that all tacked down. And I'm going to go ahead and add that to the head. I think I kind of want it to stick out a little bit at an angle. Kind of like that, I think. Just be careful of where your fingers are. Needle felting teaches you anything. It's how to be mindful of where you put your fingers. Okay, I'm just going to attach that loosely in case I want to change my mind. Maybe reposition a little bit there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and attach the fiber to the other ear, and I will be right back with you. Okay, we've got his little ears attached, so now we're going to do the fun part, which is choosing our little locks and attaching them as the final coat for our little sheep. And he can be as fluffy as you want, as streamlined as you want. This is your little sheep, so you make him look however you want him to look. I just open these little locks up a little bit and just pick a spot and just start gently attaching them. I think I'm going to save that one. That's really cute. And you can use whatever colors you like. It's your sheep. Make him a happy little sheep. Like I said, just always be mindful of where your fingers are. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open up some more locks and get them attached, and I'll be right back. Okay, y'all, I've got them mostly covered. And I'm just going through and adding a little bit of additional fluffiness. I do like a fluffy sheep. Like I said, this is your creation, and you make it as fluffy or not fluffy as you would like for it to be. You just want to make sure to tack those down really well. Sorry if I'm wiggling you. My table's touching the tripod. And we are looking for suggestions for the names for our sheep. We just like for them to all start with an S. These are the Shenanigan Sheep Squad. And we're selling them, like I said, at craft shows and indie markets, festivals, things of that nature. And we call them our shenanigan sheep because they just look like they're going to get up to something just any minute. So if you can think of a name that starts with an S, we'd appreciate you dropping a comment. Gonna add a little color to them over here. And a little on this side, I think. Okay, I'm going to do just a little bit more fluffing and I'll be right back. Okay, y'all, I think that pretty much is going to wrap it up for this little tutorial. If you have any questions, please just shoot me a message, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that I can for you. I'm sure there's a million and one things that I should have remembered to tell you, but did not. And I would be more than happy to help in any way that I can. So, y'all, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. This little guy is ready to join his friends in the sheep squad. They are party animals. If you can think of a name, like I said, just something starting with an S, we would appreciate any comments as to what to name these little guys. There are, I don't know, 6 or 7 of them now, so we need several names. And thank you again for being here. I do appreciate it. And thank you to Brooke at Mrs. Coghill Farm and Coghill Farm for suggesting that I do this. Without her help, I don't know where we'd be. So thank y'all so much for being here, and we will see you in the next